And thank you so very much for joining us this evening at this lovely elementary school, Parker here. We are so happy that we are in our public facility here. The elementary school, as we know, schools are foundation in our community, and from time to time it's good to visit. And so while we would often have different types of accommodations, we are happy to be at a place here in Parker where everyone can come and many of us reminisce. So this is a great evening for a civic forum. My name is Shelly Clark. I'm president of the Bay County League of Women Voters. We're an organization that's been around for 100 years. Nationally, we have worked to make sure that people are involved and interested and informed in helping to make decisions about who governs us on every level. And so we know that local government has an impact in people's everyday lives that is different than what they may have on our effect from Tallahassee or from Washington, D.C. But here locally, we want to make sure that citizens have confidence in the people that they elect, that they have a choice, that they use their voice, and that people come together on behalf of the common interest and can feel that they're connected in how we move forward as a community and as a state and as a nation. So we're going to start with our traditional pledge. If you would all please stand and join me in pledging allegiance to our flag is here on the left. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Okay, as I said, this is a tradition for the League of Women Voters. We have a structured question and answer session this evening, first with our city council candidates for seats 1 and seats 3. We do have one of the candidates that was not able to be with us this evening. So the 3 will have an equal number of questions that they will answer first. Before we started, they have drawn numbers so that there is fairness in the way that they're asked questions, and each candidate will answer each one of the questions. Everyone will have 1 minute to answer, and then we have a timekeeper, our official timekeeper here, Earl Henderson, who is our league secretary, and our timekeeper. Yes, we have men in our League of Women Voters too, of course. We have other members that we enjoy having a balanced kind of input, and of course, people that are interested in women's issues are not just women. So we welcome men and have very valuable male members. So everyone will have a minute to. We said one minute. We said 1 minute, and then you will be notified when there's 15 seconds left for your response, and then Earl will give you the stop sign when your time has expired. We appreciate that everyone respects those rules. We also appreciate that everyone would respect that we are not having feedback from the audience for the candidate. Yes, sir, I see you have a comment or question. Okay, then I will go ahead and give Ms. Jamie the microphone to tell you about the process and our procedures. Jamie is our voter services chairman. She has been for a number of years and has run these forums very efficiently. It's a lot of moving parts, and so we had one earlier this week in Lynn Haven. And again, there are a number of local races here around Bay County, and these were the 2 that have the most interest and that generated a lot of enthusiasm. So we're glad that we're able to be here participating to have them talk to you this evening and let them know what's on their minds. And the issues that we have formulated, we hope, are the ones that represent what Parker residents are most interested in. So with that, we'll let you know that we also will be streaming this, and it will be recorded so people will be able to refer later, or others will be able to see it as well. Okay.
Good evening, all. I'm pleased to say I used to live in Parker on North Lakewood Drive and see some familiar faces, yes, and then I had the silliness of moving to California and, well, okay. But like mildew, I came back. So in all sincerity, good evening, and we of the League of Women Voters of Bay County sincerely welcome you for being here. And we have our crew here who has worked quite hard to help the candidates address the issues that you are most important to you. The League applauds the courage of the candidates for being willing to run for office. We thank all of you in the audience for your willingness to take time out and learn more about what these candidates have to say. And so let us begin with our forum rules. Candidates are seated alphabetically on the stage. None of the candidates have received any of these questions in advance. Questions are relevant to the issues facing a particular office. We make every effort to ensure that every candidate, we are going to ask every candidate an equal number of questions. The way we do it, since you want to know process as well, is the candidates have drawn numbers at random that relate to a question. Whoever drew question 1 will answer question 1 first, and then going clockwise, the other candidates will also have a chance to express their opinion or views for 60 seconds on that same question. Now, the candidates are giving a minute to answer. When the league timekeeper starts the clock, the candidate begins to answer. He'll signal when you have 15 seconds left and flash the stop sign. Everyone can see him with the stop sign. Excellent. If there is time remaining in your minute, you may continue to use the rest of your time to either address or carry forward, expound on another topic, or answer. But there are no personal attacks and there are no questions from the audience. At the moment, due to COVID, we just can't handle that at the moment. Supporters in the audience are allowed, but we're here to be respectful. No clapping or hooting or booing is allowed here. It's a civil dialogue. We're all grown-ups, and we can certainly behave that way, even though we're sitting in a grammar school, where I probably imagine many of you actually went. Any questions on this? We have 12 questions for the City Council, followed by 12 questions for Mayor.
In the past, with our forums, our community candidate forums, we have a member or two that goes around with pencils and cards that ask the audience for questions throughout. At that time, it's usually me, and then we would kind of combine the questions because you and several others may have a similar question. And when we find that the candidates have already asked some of the pre-drawn questions, sometimes 2 questions are answered, together. So then when we find that there's time, we will get some of the questions from the audience and then at that point ask the candidates. That's a little hard because of the separation.
There got to be some benefit being old, right? They haven't had the vaccine yet, and they understandably have concerns about being in a public space. Some people have health issues. The normal reason why people aren't out and about. Thank you for your question. Anyone else? And we appreciate our media being here. Thank you very much. And please thank your council member, Crook Stewart, for helping bring us there. He turned out to be a true godsend in Lynn Haven at the Lynn Haven United Methodist Church, where we had the forum on Tuesday, and we are so grateful that he is serving you all in a government position and has offered to do this for us as well. Without much ado, shall we? We'll start out with questions. We'll ask you all the 12 questions, and then we'll have a closing remark from each of you going alphabetically. All right, I'll go first. You can take your mask off. All right. each of the candidates will answer this question. And number one is Mr. Thomas has question number one. Please tell us about your personal and professional experience and how that uniquely qualifies you for this position.
Well, I'm a sixth-generation Parker family descendant, born and raised in Panama City. I went to Cove Elementary, Cherry Street Elementary, 80 Harris, 6th grade center, Rosenwald Junior High School, Bay High School, Gulf Coast Community College, then to University of Florida. I started working when I was 12 years old as a stock boy at C&G Sporting Goods. I worked at the AMC theaters as an usher in the mall. I was a lifeguard at Regency Towers, and then when I became of age, I ran a beer route for Panama Beverage for a couple of years, and then finally I worked for my stepfather, the original R.J. Gorman, and did marine construction before I left in 1981 to go to UF, and I worked for a company called Deluxe Corporation for a number of years, and then joined Ernst & Young, which is a global accounting and consulting Big Four firm. $38 billion in revenue, 300,000 people. I'm a partner in the firm. Been with them 23 years, a partner 13 years. For the last, 10 years total, I've led the Florida public sector, government public sector business for Ernst & Young, growing it from nothing to $30 million a year annually. And so I think that experience, both in terms of where I've come from, knowing this community, being part of this community. I've been on the planning commission as well for 2 years and been involved in a lot of things that we're going to talk about tonight and getting Parker ready to not only recover but to thrive as we move into the future. So I think that is my list of qualifications to serve the city.
Thank you. Mr. Chappell, shall I repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Please tell us about your personal and professional experience and how that uniquely qualifies you for this position.
Yes, ma'am.
Speak right into that microphone.
I came here in 1982 to Tyndall Air Force Base. I retired out of the base, putting in almost 24 years in the military service. When I got out of the service, I went to Haney to do some work on building houses and stuff like that. And so I became a contractor and built houses for a little bit here in Parker and Callaway, and then the bottom kind of fell out, and I just said I don't need these headaches, so I retired. And I've been with the volunteer fire department for over 12 years before I got, I won't say too old, but the younger generation kind of got involved in those hoses. When you got pressure on them, they get kind of heavy. So I quit the fire department. I did go to the...
Be mindful of the time. You want to finish a sentence?
Well, I was just going to say I was with the Bay County League of Cities for over 6 years as their treasurer.
Okay.
So I'm familiar with banking.
Perfect. Ms. Gibson, repeat the question or no? Right up to you.
Is that better?
Right to you, like
Right to me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I grew up in a very small town, very similar to Parker, so I'm fully aware of the challenges and the intricacies that are involved with small town living. I was 1990s Young Citizen of the Year, and hopefully that doesn't date me. I went to University of Kentucky in Richmond and got my bachelor's degree with a business minor. I spent 12 years as working for a Fortune 500 company and for a renowned children's hospital in the sales and marketing department and with their advertising, working with multi-million-dollar budgets. I then met my husband, so off I went to go around the world with the Air Force, and I started a business 13 years ago and restarted it 3 different times in 3 different locations, one of which was Japan, so international. And I have always had and always will have a place in my heart for volunteer and community activism.
Thank you. Question 2.
Question 2. Mr. Chappell. think is the most significant issue facing the city of Parker, and how would you work to address these issues?
Well, during our hurricane that we had here, which devastated Parker, we lost almost half of our voting citizens. And one thing I like to do is try to get the population back up to where it was before the hurricane. And by doing that, we need to go and open up some more businesses and houses. I do understand that the Air Force is going to have 3 new squadrons coming into it. So that should bring us in about 2,000 or 2,500 people. And hopefully we can get those people to stay here in Parker in houses that we have supplied for them.
Thank you. Ms. Gibson?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Absolutely.
Sorry.
What do you think is the most significant issue or issues facing the city of Parker, and how would you work to address these?
The most significant is the hurricane cleanup. And entwined with that is economic development and bringing the citizens back. I know we're in a budget shortfall. We have to bring businesses back. We need to make it more attractive to businesses that were here that decided to go to other places. We are in I feel like we are in a situation that we need to expand our code enforcement and make it proactive instead of reactive. And from my standpoint, without the cleanup, businesses and new residents won't be coming back into Parker. We have 3,500, like Mr. Chappell said, we've got 3,500 people coming in the next few years, and we have the ability to build homes from vacant lots that aren't being utilized. That's just one piece of it.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas, shall I repeat it?
I actually see 3 things, and they're independent of each other. 3 things: housing, infrastructure, and investment. You can't have one without the other 2. We're doing a lot on each of those now. We're about to break ground next week on a 257-unit apartment complex at Earl Gilbert Park at the foot of the bridge. We need code enforcement, as Ms. Gibson has said, to pick up and clear off the lots and spur new investment. The infrastructure, though, is key. We just kicked off a new sewer infrastructure. I think it's 33,000 feet of new pipes, which will be able to support the new building and the investments that people want to make in the city, both individuals and corporations. I've been involved in each part of that, working with the mayor and city council and the planning commission on the R2P2 plan for the city, meeting with developers and investors and business owners on what the city can do to help them to be more amenable to what they want to do and how they want to develop the city, and working with Tyndall Air Force Base and the other employers to make sure we're serving their constituencies as they come in.
Thank you.
All right. Question number 3. All righty. Ms. Gibson, you get to answer this question first. Do you support the school tax levy that will be on the ballot on April 20th? Why or why not?
I 100% support teachers. I know exactly what they're going through. I homeschooled my children for about 6 months. I do not support the tax, and here is why. We are top-heavy in our management of the school district. I think, and I understand how the money works. There are different, I call it pots or buckets of money, and those need to be moved around in a way, and the budget's changed to give those teachers that rightfully deserve raise without taxing our citizens. We have so many that are low income, seniors on fixed incomes, and they just can't. Even $250 a year is a lot for a lot of people. On top of if we get more taxes or other issues. So I say no.
Mr. Thomas, yes or no on the school levy?
Well, this is a personal issue for me. My sister ran the IB program and taught at Rutherford High School for 10 years, and my brother-in-law is just retiring this year, teaching his whole career at Rutherford. So I know what teachers are going through and what they've had to face. If you could guarantee that every single penny that would be raised by this tax would go to every teacher in Bay County, then that would be one thing. But if you look at the way things have been done and decisions that have been made previously, to what Ms. Gibson was just saying in terms of the superintendent staff and the overhead at the district level. I mean, just last week, they split one position into two, I think, deputy superintendent jobs, both of which will make more than a teacher in our system. So I don't have confidence right now in the school district to be able to do things the right way and ensure that teachers get the pay that they so richly deserve and have been denied, quite frankly, for the last decade.
Mr. Chappell, yes or no on that school levy?
I'm not for the school tax either. Here in Parker, we don't have a lot of, I understand it's going to be under the land tax or property tax, and I'm not really for taxes. We have enough problems just trying to keep our people above water at the present time, and they really don't need another tax to get them going. So, my daughter is a school teacher. Yes, she don't make a whole lot of money, but she makes enough to survive. So, if she can survive, I figure the other teachers can too at this time.
Number 4. Okay, I'm going to switch it around a bit. Based on what you said, Mr. Chappell's last remark, the 2020 to 2021 city budget is not on the website. We weren't able to find that. How do citizens know what the city is spending its money on, and is that a concern for you candidates that haven't been able to find that? And what does this say about the transparency of city government and the budget process?
There is a huge problem with transparency. I myself, immediately as I started getting involved with the city and going to the meetings, tried to find the budget. And the budget is deep down in there. Had to dig for quite a while before I found it, and it is a 50,000-foot view with 7 or 8 revenue items and 7 or 8 expense items. There has to be transparency because there are things being spent right now in this city that I know our citizens have objected to and that are not on board on, and these budgets are being made with not a lot of citizen input because most people don't even know when the city council meetings are. So absolutely 100%, a line item, every single line item budget needs to be on that page, easily accessible for everyone to see.
Mr. Thomas, shall I repeat it?
Yeah, I've got a question. I'm not as draconian in my view on the situation. I think the city is doing the best that it can. We were handicapped when our clerk was fired abruptly in the middle of a city council meeting and asked to leave and vacate the premises. And we went out with the clerk for some time, and then we had a problem with the one that was hired who had some personal issues and had to be let go. We finally got a very, very good city clerk, and now things are being put back together. And with the help of Councilwoman Galbraith and working with the mayor and the other council members, they are making the things aware, making the citizens aware of what is being done. And city council votes, and I would say that some citizens might not agree, but the majority are with the city in terms of what we're trying to do to make this city better. Certainly, we could always have greater transparency, greater communication, but it's something that the council, planning commission, and the mayor's office and the staff are working to make sure that we're getting the word out and doing as much as possible. We could use community involvement with that too to improve things. Thank you.
How are they making that visible to the constituents?
Well, so there's a posting. It's in the office. It's on the website of the city. There's a Facebook page. There are a number of things there, but you're talking about a skeleton crew staff. We're trying to balance a budget or work under a budget, make repairs, make improvements, and build. I mean, I would love to have some additional people on staff to do things like grant writing and code enforcement, but we are moving as fast as we possibly can and trying to be as transparent as possible.
Thank you. Mr. Chappell, shall I repeat the question?
Yes, please.
The 2021 budget is not visible, user-friendly on the website. How do citizens know what the city is spending its money on? And what does this say about the transparency of city government and the budget process?
Well, the city of Parker, as far as I'm aware of, have always had a slush fund, or never been in the red during the time I've been here anyway. And we are getting enough revenue to handle the things here in Parker. And I just feel like maybe we need to go and take a look at the budget and see if we're not overcharging on different things to the citizens, and maybe we can cut some of the expenditures to give the Parker citizens a better life for the money that they're paying.
I'm going to jump to number 7. Who's got number 7? I know, just throw it. I know, throw you a curve. Hey, that's what, get used to that. You're in city government. You're going to get thrown a curve. Because since we were speaking of money, this question follows on with money. There is a considerable sum of federal dollars coming to your city, and we don't yet know, I think, how much exactly that will be. But what do you think is the best use of this money? What are your priorities to see getting done with this with new money coming from the feds?
Probably doing more advertising and trying to get our city built up with more businesses here in town. We've got a lot of property around here that's commercial property that, of course, are tearing down a lot of things and making it a place they could go ahead and build. So I think we just need to go and spend some money on advertisement, letting people know that we are here, and we got places for you to build if you want to build. So, I guess just that is what we do for our money.
Ms. Gibson, what do you think Parker should be spending the federal dollars coming their way on?
Depending on how much it is, right? So if we're getting multi-million dollars, and I know we are working towards the infrastructure. I've literally spoken to probably 30 people who still have water and sewer and drain storm problems that are not being addressed. And it's been going on for years, decades at this point. So I would say that would be number 1. Number 2 would be if we have the money, we need to hire an economic development coordinator to coordinate our real estate, the commercial, the builders and developers, and actively find those people and bring them into Parker. The third thing I would say is we need a grant writer, and we need a paid grant writer who does nothing but write grants to bring in these funds into our city for additional income so that we can close that budget shortfall.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes, well, some of that federal money is to help us repay the loans that we took out for the debris clearing. So that money's already gone to that from FEMA. Some of the HUD money through the Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery is going towards infrastructure, the sewer lines, and improving our stormwater management and sewer system. We're also hardening the police department, which was probably half destroyed by the storms, putting in new generators and upgrading the substations around Parker. So the majority of it's going into infrastructure. I think there are things that we are looking at in terms of grants as it relates to the plan, the Recovery and Resiliency Partnership Plan, to help prepare the city for what we want it to be. And we're working on that right now, but the money is targeted to the right things. Obviously, code enforcement, grant writing are important, and if we can get federal funds to help us with that, then that is a priority as well.
Thank you.
Number 6.
So we're going to go back. Then we're going to go forward.
Right, yeah. Again, city government, right? Were there any decisions the council recently has made with which you strongly disagree?
Oh, yes.
Please explain in your answer what you would have done differently.
There currently was a vote to have our ad valorem tax looked into and to cover any budget shortfalls. And I understand the reasoning behind it. However, finding out what we know now, which is the council can do an ad valorem tax up to 10 mil with no voter referendum. And this is a very concerning thing to me. If I was on city council, the first thing I would do is change our charter or change whatever it is that we need to take care of so that that goes to a voter referendum, not to 3 people majority on a city council having, say, over 4,000 people who are low income and not fixed incomes and absolutely cannot afford a 10 mil ad valorem tax.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas?
So just to clarify the record here, Parker does not have an ad valorem tax right now. We're the only city in Bay County that doesn't. What was requested by the council was to look into what would be required if the city wanted to consider at some point in the future if an ad valorem tax was the right thing to do, i.e. if we were faced with the city potentially going under or a cessation of services like fire and police, what are our options? And prudent leadership and prudent governance says that you consider your options well before you have to make a decision. And so that's what the council asked them to do. Now, as to decisions that I disagree with,
right.
As part of the Planning Commission, we worked hard in 2019 to put the comprehensive plan update in front of the council. Part of that was to put restrictions on mobile home parks and RV parks, no new ones, no bigger, and to upgrade the surroundings and the infrastructure around those RV parks and mobile home parks. And the city council, particularly the person that's sitting in the seat we were running for, plus 2 others, voted that down. And we had agreement with the RV park owners and the mobile home park owners to work with us on that, and the council voted it down. And I strongly disagree with that.
Thank you. Before you answer the question, I just want to remind the candidates that no personal, let's not direct anything specifically, just in, moving forward. Do you need me to repeat the question, Mr. Temple?
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely, no worries. Yeah. So the question was, were there any decisions that the council has recently made with which you strongly disagreed? And please explain in your answer what you would have done differently.
Well, I don't think I can really answer that question because I've only been in the last 2 or 3 council meetings, and I'm just not up to par on that, but I will look into it and see what the minutes and stuff like that say about it, but I really can't answer that question.
Who has number 5? There he is. All right. Well, I know you're going to be able to answer this one. Prior to Hurricane Michael, there were several affordable apartment complexes in your city. What can or should the city do to encourage a better balance of housing, specifically affordable housing for working people? Shh, quiet.
Yes. Well, we do need to have available housing. And as mentioned earlier, that we are getting new apartments down on Hill Gerbert's Park. I don't know what the price range is going to be of those apartments, but due to the flux of people coming into it to Tyndall, I'm hoping that the people will, and we have land here in Parker to go and build houses and stuff. Not a lot of land, but we do have land available. And I'm hoping that some of those people will come here and stay and live here in Parker.
Can I do a quick follow-up on that? What about tiny homes? Do you know what I mean about tiny homes? The very small fixed structures.
We have a lot of those in the Parker right now.
Well, well, yes, you do. Ms. Gibson?
Repeat the question one more time.
All right.
Sorry.
Prior to Hurricane Michael, there were several affordable apartment complexes in your city. What can or should the city do to encourage a better balance of housing? And then I followed on with, what about tiny houses, because that has been a question before.
So I'll leave this a two-part question. So the Parker has some of the lowest housing prices, depending on where you're looking, per square foot in the county. I'm fully aware of this, and we do have to build more housing. Because a lot of it is going to be focused towards the military. I believe that the not tiny houses, obviously, but the influx with the turnover of, we do need that, I'm so sorry, I'm just blanking right now. The apartments, we do need those type of housing that is able to accommodate our military and the influx of turnover, that it will take care of our airmen and our lower income families. As for tiny houses, I'm just going to move real quick, it has a very big detrimental effect to our property values. You put a tiny house next to a 2,000 square foot house and you put 5 or 6 of them, you're going to see a major change in your comps.
Wouldn't zoning address that?
Zoning should address that, but the way I understand it and the way it was explained to me is that they address some of the mobile home issues, but they did not address mobile or tiny homes, and they did not address Connex homes, so the container homes that people are building. Actually, he would know more about that than I would.
Well, I'm going to him anyway.
Okay.
Mr. Thomas.
As part of the comp plan update that I was talking about earlier with the mobile home elements to it, we also put in specs around the container homes, the smaller homes, and where they could go and what the restrictions were around those, what codes they had to meet. And same thing with upgrading the codes that the mobile homes had to meet. So that was part of the comp plan. Not all of that went through to the council. They vetoed some of that. So that's what I was talking about earlier. So we've already planned for that. The council just decided not to follow some of it. As for housing, Parker's always going to be a mix of what I would call transient and permanent. So people coming in on and off base for assignments, contractors coming in for projects, what have you. So having a mix of the RV parks will always be here, mobile homes will always be here, and a small mix of whether you call them 1 or 2 bedroom tiny homes or apartments will be here. But that's what we've been working with through the Planning Commission with these people that want to come in. We're looking at rezoning part of South Tyndall Parkway to increase the density per acre, which would allow builders to put more homes there and reduce the cost. So that would address some of the issues around affordability. But I think we're going to have a whole new different type of folks coming in here with the folks from Tyndall. We're going to double the size of Parker, basically. And so we need to think about them as well as the people that have always been here and what they may need.
And just a quick, is it now R2, or what are you planning on rezoning that part of Tyndall Parkway to? Do you have?
Oh, so it's mixed use 1 or mixed use 2. We have some parcels, it's almost like a checkerboard. And we're researching as to exactly why that was and working or talking with the owners about their views on that. Certainly one of the destroyed complexes, Parkway Gardens, the owner is waiting for us to successfully rezone that, because that will help him decide whether he's going to rebuild or sell. And right now there's only one part of a 6 or 7 acres piece that's being used.
Thank you.
And so it's very important.
Thank you. Okay, we're back on track. We're up to number 8. Who has 8?
Number 8?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Is that you?
That's
Okay,
me.
awesome. Okay, so your city, as a few of you have mentioned, has several parks, and some which suffered significant damage after the hurricane. What are the priority projects that the city should undertake?
Well, I'm glad you brought that subject up, because I've seen what Callaway has done to their Tyndall Parkway, and I'm kind of wondering why we here in Parker don't do the same thing as far as putting trees up along the parkway. I understand that we can't do it past the Y because there's too many cables and stuff like that that goes from there to the Tyndall. But from the Y back up to Cherry Street, as far as I know, there's nothing involved that we couldn't go ahead and beautify that area. Maybe put a Parker sign up there like what we got down at the bridge. I think we could, spend some money doing that. It's not a high priority because there are other things that need to be done, but it is something that we got to consider. Maybe we can get some grants to do that, and I would like to see us get our ballpark area back in a playground or something like that for the kids.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Gibson, shall I repeat? Your city has several parks which suffered significant damage after the hurricane. What are the priority projects that the city should consider and undertake?
I think the number one park that needs to be dealt with is the sports complex. And there needs to be some discussion with the community about that, because from my understanding, years ago we had a vibrant Little League, we had lots and lots of activity there, and not so much in the last few years, even before the hurricane. So my thought is to maybe, and I've heard some comments from citizens that amazing ideas for a piece of that park, instead of putting maybe the ball fields out, of doing different playground sections. They're talking about a walking park. They had mentioned doing an area to where we had sort of an amphitheater, to where we could bring in bands and entertainment and do plays, and to set up a farmer's market every month, every weekend, depending on bringing in food trucks, bringing in a band, having bouncy houses for the kids, and working it that way. So right now it's sort of sad because it's the construction holding zone for concrete. So that's sort of disappointing.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas, shall I repeat?
No.
Okay.
So there are plans already underway, and as part of the R2P2 process, there was citizen outreach. We did focus groups and took input, and there is a plan for what I'm calling Central Park of Parker. For a lot of the things that Ms. Gibson was just talking about, a dog park as well, but it's going to be tied into both a local and a wider network. So from Martin Lake, where we have the dock and the Peep House now, all the way down to the end of West Park Street, going through Central Park, to where we're anticipating and looking to potentially build a kayak launch and have a nice park on the water down there. Now that will be tied into a wider group of paths, both foot, bike, and by boat, with our sister cities all the way up to Quincy and Mariana, where we'll be working across Central Florida with them now, and been on several calls with them, linking up what they're doing so you can have cross panhandle passage. You can bike, boat, and camp and walk. And so that's all part of the plan. It's already available right now, and we've already planned for that. And there's actually in City Hall is an overview of what Central Park is going to look like.
I was just going to ask because I'm sure the constituents would love to see.
I'm not sure if it's on the city website or not right now, but it is.
It's not.
It's hanging in the council room with all the other R2 plans.
You can get
Point
somebody
taken about the website.
Yeah, well, that is how we get information now. Nobody's going to City Hall like they used to. But on the Facebook page. All right, good enough.
That too.
Facebook, y'all. All right, number 9. Or I'm sorry, you're number 10. Sorry. Yeah, number 9.
Okay, that was
number 9.
Okay, number 9.
Number 9. Is that you, Mr. Thomas?
That's me.
He's there.
I didn't write down what 8 was, so I was off.
8 was the parks.
Okay.
There you go. Well, you didn't answer that one first, so it didn't matter. All right, number 9. Parker has had a community redevelopment agency since 2006. Its stated purpose is, and I quote, to create an economically sustainable, accessible, and attractive mixed-use area that offers visitors and residents a high-quality local destination with a safe transportation network, pedestrian connections, and public recreation facilities that promote a positive image for the city of Parker. What are your priorities for this funding?
You just described the R2P2 project to a T.
I know, I was like handing you a ball there.
You know, the first step, so the very first step was putting in sidewalk all the way down Business 98 to Parker School to the Y. And, you know, I never thought that I'd get so excited to see a sidewalk go in, but it was really an exciting thing to see. And, you know, we're starting fencing on the Central Park area, and so these things are underway, and they, you know.
Are they using CRA funds?
No, they're not using CRA funds. So
well, what are you going to use
it's a combination
CRA
of
for?
grant. There are grants that are available for this. We've got probably one of the biggest spreadsheets I've ever seen in my life. And talking with the folks from FEMA, DEP, and HUD that have been working with us on the R2P2 plan for all the different types of grants that are available for this type of work. The CRA is you know, you want to make sure that you integrate both those plans and that they sync up, which, as I said, you described it to a T. We want a walkable downtown area that provides both recreation and economic opportunities for every citizen of Parker. We want it to be a gathering place for the city. Parker has never been a city with a downtown. This is our opportunity to build that.
And where are you thinking that is?
That's Business 98.
Okay. Mr. Chapel, the CRA, are you familiar with that, the Community Redevelopment Agency that you have here in Parker?
No, ma'am, I'm not really involved in that.
Well, let me just ask you, if you, since you're not, I don't want to unfairly burden you here, but that money's supposed to be used to help make the city more attractive. It could be used for public, you know, not for public, like that, bike paths and sidewalks and the beautification and green spaces, things of like that. You mentioned planting trees. You could do that. That's a pot of money that can be used for beautification as well as safety and recreation. You know, what would you, if you had your druthers and somebody said, Mr. Chapel,
well,
how you want to
as far as recreation goes, I feel like our kids here in Parker do need an extensive playground area that they can go to. I know what we mentioned before, like we say, we don't have the Little League here anymore. I've been a Little League coach, and I'd like to see something built back up, and maybe I can start up a youth group to go ahead and play in that. At one time, I thought, when I was a little bit younger, I thought about having a softball team of 65 and older with citizens.
Sounds like a way to break a leg. New hip, anyone?
Well, down in where I was raised, down in St. Petersburg, we did have a senior citizen ball game, or softball at slow pitch. And I don't know if the citizens in Parker would be interested in something like that, but
well, we'll have to find out. Okay. Tell him what you want. Ms. Gibson, the same question. Oh, absolutely. Parker has had a community redevelopment agency, they call it a CRA, since 2006. Its stated purpose is to create an economically sustainable, accessible, and attractive mixed-use area that offers visitors and residents a high-quality local destination with a safe transportation network, such as sidewalks or bike paths, pedestrian connections, and public recreation facilities that promote a positive image of the city of Parker. What would you like to see that money spent on?
I love the idea of the downtown corridor. I think it's wonderful, and I think it is something that it truly is going to be 20, 30 years out. There are issues on that downtown corridor that are not being addressed, and we are never going to get to that piece of development without taking care of some major issues in Parker, and you all know exactly what I'm talking about.
Let me be specific.
We have a drug issue in Parker.
We're going to ask you about that.
Okay, well, that's the big
And
piece
the
of
CRA
it.
doesn't address the drug issue.
So we can make it beautified. We can put these parks in that we have criminals and drug dealers and homeless. There's a homeless population here. They, being a part of these parks and these wonderful things that we're building, we're going to have a hard time drawing people to that.
So are you saying, well, how would you spend that money then?
So spending, so quickly, the way I would spend the money is, I guess I would, if we have the money and we're going to spend it, we're going to put the infrastructure in, but we're also going to have to figure out how to take care of the other piece of it, because you can't have one without the other.
There you go.
So the segue, yes,
Yeah,
Mr.
I was
Mr.
supposed to
Yeah,
ask number
Mr.
10.
Thomas, yeah. Number 10, that's where we are. We're in the right direction now. And we're in grammar school, so we're actually following 8, 9, 10. So many residents are concerned about drug trafficking and criminal activity. What do you think is needed to better combat crime in the city and focus on what those high-intensity crime rates are?
I think it's a combination of, at the last council, well, 2 months, the meeting before last, some residents came up to ask for help. They were pleading for help, and about a particular part of Parker where there was, drug activity going on. And, the police department was aware of it, they were monitoring it, but I think, back to the whole connection between the community and the city, we need more of that. We need people, we see something, say something, and let the city, the proper authorities deal with that, whether it's code enforcement, whether it's the fire department, whether it's the police department. I think the other thing is, it relates to housing. A lot of these folks are living in housing where the landlords, all they need is a warm body, and they get paid. And the more housing options that we offer, like for Section 8 housing, so to speak, for example, that are better, that forces those landlords to do something with that property other than sit on it. And the code enforcement that we're putting in place right now, we've just gone with the derelict and dilapidated buildings. We're going to move into eyesores, which some of these would fall under, and force them through code enforcement to upgrade those facilities. And that will help us, along with the citizens and the city working together, to push that element as far out of Parker as we can.
Mr. Chappell, shall I repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Many residents of Parker are concerned about drug trafficking and criminal activity. What do you think is needed to better combat the crime in the city?
Well, on that, like I said, that we need to get our people involved, and if they do need to see things going on, which I have a little problem behind my house, and I have talked to the chief about it, and I think that citizens just need to go and don't be afraid to go and turn somebody in if they think there's something going on. Just go ahead and turn them in, and let the police or the fire department, whoever, handle the situation. I know we did have a pretty good problem here in Parker with drugs, and according to our chief of police, we still do have a problem here in Parker, but it is getting better. The homeless, we do have homeless people here in Parker. I don't know how to really help them to get housing or whatever, but so.
Yeah. Ms. Gibson, would you like me to repeat?
Yes.
Absolutely. Many residents are concerned about drug trafficking and criminal activity. What do you think is needed to better combat the crime in the city?
There needs to be a multifaceted approach to this. There isn't one answer to it. So I was at that council meeting where that gentleman was literally begging them for help. There are grants and there are programs through the Drug Task Force where if we do the research and we maybe get that grant writer, that'd be great, to get us an extra policeman that does nothing but work on drug enforcement and the drug houses. I've heard it over and over and over again in the last 2 months from many, many residents all over the city. The other issue that we could do is the code enforcement. We have the ability that if we can get our neighbors to call, the neighbors that are having the issues, and they see the drug trafficking and they see the cars in and out, that they can call, and if there are 5 nuisance complaints, then that landlord starts getting fines, and there's a legal way that we can deal with it. And the other piece of it, is we need to put together neighborhood watches. It's easy, it's inexpensive, and we need to let the citizens know they absolutely have the right to call on these people and not be afraid of retribution.
Well, just to follow up on that, because the three of you all touched on it, how is the police department handling this now? If you have citizens that are begging, pleading and saying that this is the area, how are the homeowners or residents going to feel safe about calling and knowing that there won't be anything?
Well, I know that gentleman that did come to the council meeting. He did speak to Chief Hutto, and there was a concerted effort to focus on that, and they were gone within 3 days.
Right.
That's how quickly it happened.
Okay.
There's a whole stage to that. So you can only get so much for trespassing, but if you pick up possession or intent to distribute or prostitution or larger crimes, then more pressure can be placed on the property owner.
Sure.
And so there's a cumulative effect, but also you get bonus, I hate to put it that way, but you get extra points that you can then apply pressure on that home or that property owner to do something about it. But they focused on it and they cleared it up. But it's going to pop up again. But I think the neighborhood watch is a great idea. And the more that we work between the police department, the city, and our citizens, the safer and happier we'll all be.
Mr. Chappell, did you want to add, since they got to add something?
I'll just say that I've had some problems in our neighborhood before. I called the police department and they come right down and took care of it, in just a matter of a few minutes and stuff like that. So I think our police department is doing a fine job, and I feel like we might need to get a few more police officers if our budget could stand it. But it's nothing more than having authority people around to deterrent people that are not wanting to maintain with the law.
Right.
So.
All right. Who has number 11? All right. Ms. April. We know that citizen participation is important to a healthy democracy. What do you think is the best way to encourage residents' participation in city decision-making?
We sort of just touched on this on the first one. It is
Yes.
absolutely transparency. Making it available, making it easy access. It would cost very, very little money, and we can probably have a volunteer live stream these council meetings, the planning commission. We need to do more as a city to bring our citizens together for community activities. The Easter egg hunt that we did was amazing, and everyone had a wonderful time, and it was great seeing that kind of community brought together, and there's just not enough of that. But I think the biggest thing is the transparency. We don't know when meetings are. This input for the development off of 98, I think maybe 3 or 4 people showed up, something along those lines. There was very little input, and there is always very little input, and it's just not being marketed correctly.
Okay. Citizen participation, Mr. Thomas.
Well, we're trying. I know the staff. I spoke with the clerk about the spring event, and thanks to the League of Women Voters, we were also able to coincide a Meet the Candidates event. I think that brought out not only the parents with kids, but some retired folks and citizens that were curious, and so I was very encouraged by that, and worked with the clerk to kind of help make that happen. We do need more outreach, but we need more response. You can only push so much. We need some pull. I don't know that there would be a problem. I get a copy of the email of the agenda. I think citizens want to sign up for that. That'd be great. Facebook page. Every city wants their citizens to be more engaged. I think a volunteer organization. There are a lot that we could be doing around our parks and just around doing things together as a city that we just haven't tapped into yet, because we've been devastated by the storm, and the focus has been, okay, let's stabilize, let's plan, and then let's move forward. I think we're on that moving forward position right now.
Mr. Chappell.
Yes, ma'am. I think they hit on it about everything I was thinking of. I would like to see, like I say, more citizens getting involved.
I realize a lot of them are having, still having problems with the hurricane, trying to get things together. But I think if we if we have a park and maybe have some Sunday afternoon get-togethers or something like that, a hot dog roast or a hamburger roast or something like that, just to get people involved and come on out and talk to one another. And that's one way we could get involved in having more of a social type of atmosphere for the citizens of Parker.
Thank you. Okay.
I'm holding my hand.
You have
The
it.
last
All right, awesome. Ethics. Why don't we finish it with that? Ethics is a primary concern in all elections this year. Here in Bay County, officials are facing legal consequences over mishandling city contracts, and there are ongoing investigations of corruption. What steps do you support to ensure transparency and accountability in city procurement?
I mean, more than there is right now.
Yes.
Well, I think
Or an adjustment of what you see now, or how what's in place needs to be enforced?
there are processes that we go through with every procurement. I mean, it goes through, as it relates, we're just about to do our land development regulation upgrade or rewrite. And that went through the Planning Commission. We had open bids. Every meeting is a public meeting. Every piece of information is available to the public. So part of it is, making sure the community knows what's going on, because it is happening in the sunshine. And so we went through a vetting process, took proposals, we took a vote, then we made a recommendation to the council approved it, now we're in the final stage of contracting to start doing the work. So I don't know of any more transparency that the city could provide around that. All that said, from my standpoint, working for a global accounting and consulting firm, integrity, ethics are key to everything that we do, and it's what I'm all about. And so I'm available to anybody that wants to ask me a question about anything that I'm involved in or that the city's doing, and I will find an answer and make sure that the citizens get the response that they need and they deserve.
Thank you. Mr. Chappell?
Yes, ma'am. I've been thinking about that, and I've been the same token. If I'm available anytime that people want to talk about trying to do something here in the city. I feel like we ought to be a small community, and we ought to get together with other folks here in the city and try to get along with everybody. And I don't know, I guess I really don't have a good answer for that.
I can reread it if you'd like. Would you like me to reread it, or it's just focusing on the corruption and, just how to be a little bit more transparent and have accountability in the procurement process?
I really don't know, ma'am. I'd have to come back on that.
No problem. Ms. Gibson, shall I read the entire question?
No,
Okay.
you're fine. We go back to transparency again. We go back to the website. This contract that was discussed and went through last night at the council meeting, we have no access to read those contracts. We see the bids, but we don't see who those bids are. It's not on the website, and none of that is available unless you physically go to every single meeting and know what's going on, and then physically go to the city hall, speak to Ms. Karen, and ask for whatever it is you're looking for. That contract is a $70,000 contract that's coming out of our budget for LDRs that, yes, we need them, but there are other alternatives. And it's a contract that was written with an open-ended hourly rate. I would never sign a contract like that. Why in the world would we do that? That contract needed to be in the sunshine for everybody in Parker and in that council room to see and to read. And that is what is happening, and that is what needs to change.
If there are things that are inaccurate, do we just let them go or not?
You can address it
in your closing remarks.
Which we're coming to
Absolutely.
right now.
Yes.
Mr. Camp, you are the first. This is your final statement. You have 1 minute for a closing statement. What would you like the voters to know?
Well, like I said, I've been here since '82. I've been on different programs. I was a volunteer farmer for a while, almost 12 years. I've been a representative from Parker for the Bay County Crime Stopper program. I was representing the Parker in the Bay County League of Cities, which I was treasurer of them for over 6 years. I volunteered myself when we were building the playground park out there. I donated and actually physically did some work in helping build the sports program or the sports complex. I know we lost quite a few of our members here in Parker, and I'm just hoping that we can get them back or get new faces to stay here in Parker and have some opportunity for them business-wise and that.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to say a little bit about my beliefs. I believe in God, I believe in country, and I believe in family. I believe that we should be respecting our country and our nation. I am a patriot and a conservative, and I will never apologize for that. I'm also a Christian, and I will never apologize for that either. Every place that I have ever been a community of, been many, many different communities over the past 47 years. But for the past 25 years, I've worked vigorously to improve every place that I've ever been. And I have the business experience, the marketing experience, and the community outreach experience to bring our community together to better Parker. And we have to put our residents first, because that's not what's happening right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas?
You know, I think we all feel the frustration in our community. It's been building over the last 2 years. We want things to be better. We want it right now. And I can tell you for the last 2 years, the city, the mayor, the city council, the planning commission have been working very hard, joined up with the state, the county, our sister communities, Springfield, Callaway, Panama City, Mexico Beach, to build a plan of working together to rebound. And you know, things like upgrading the comprehensive plan, upgrading or updating the land development regulation fit hand in glove with those plans. And that's why they're essential to be done now. We need them now. You know, our opportunity is now, and the next 2 years will be the most important 2 years in Parker's history and in Parker's future, quite frankly. And that's why I think we need the most capable and experienced people leading our city and leading our citizens to where we want it all to, we all want to be. And that's why I believe I'm the right person at the right time and to lead the city forward. And I appreciate your consideration and I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
I should let you all know that Ms. Evans was not available to be here this evening and did not give us a statement to read, but otherwise, rest assured, she is on the ballot. And that concludes this segment, and we'll take a quick break. Thank you all.
established here. We'd just like to remind everyone that the election season has begun. Maybe some of you have already voted by mail. I believe Monday is the last day that someone could request a vote by mail ballot. Early voting does start on Monday, and there are 7 available early voting sites that anyone can vote at. They're open from 9 to 6, and you can find those locations on the Supervisor of Elections website. Also, on Election Day, this election, unlike the last couple, required everyone to go to the one designated precinct to vote. So that is one change in this election cycle, is about Election Day voting. So with no further ado, we will ask our panelists to then begin questioning our candidates, Mr. Kelly and Mr. Musgrave.
Hello, who has number 1?
Do we open these?
Yeah.
Q1 I have.
All righty, Mr. Kelly. All right. Please tell us about your personal and professional experience and how that uniquely qualifies you for this position.
My family and I moved to Parker in 1992 from our last duty station in Honolulu, Hawaii. I was an electronic surveillance specialist for the Department of Defense, spent most of my career downrange outside the continental United States. As an agent, I learned much about the federal government, how it works, and caused the incarceration of numerous people who violated those laws. Came to Parker because we had traveled here when we were stationed at Fort Jackson when my children were small, and had family in the area. When the opportunity came to come back to the United States, we decided that I'd like a change rather than go work for the sheriff. And I'd been a fireman in the Auxiliary Fire Department in Columbia, South Carolina. Mayor Hendricks was mayor at the time, and they were hiring their first paid professional fire chief. And I was the first paid professional fire chief that they hired, and that was 27 years ago.
All right, Mr. Musgrave.
Thank you. I'm born and raised in Illinois. Went to the Air Force, and I was actually stationed here at Tyndall many years ago. And then went back into the corporate sector, worked for communications companies in sales, marketing, finance, and HR. Worked for the Bell Telephone Company for a number of years, and then went into some private corporations that did some buyouts. We moved here in 2005 after having done a stint in Atlanta. I had a small business consulting practice that I engaged here and became involved with the city of Parker. I was asked to come on the planning commission in 2011, which I did, which was a great preparation for anybody wanting to consider coming into any kind of the elected positions. So I was fortunate. I ran for mayor in 2013 and won, and have been mayor ever since for the last 8 years. So what we've accomplished in this city is something I want to continue to move forward with. Thank you.
Oops, speaking of mayors, mayors are elected for 2-year terms, but council members are elected for 4 years. Is that correct?
That's correct.
What do you think the pros and cons of that arrangement is? And who's got number 2?
I have number 2.
Number 2, so hold that answer or wave and let me know. Mr. Kelly, what are the pros and cons of the 2
I've been
versus
the fire
4?
chief for the past 27 years. I'm acclimated to the way that the government runs. I worked for 7 mayors during my career. I retired last August. I've never had a problem with the terms in office. Most people run for more than 1 term, and that had been the trend since Mayor Gilbert.
But is there a pro or a con to that?
For me, none. I had no pro or con. Basically, it's the fire department. We do what we do every day, the same as the police do every day. We don't. We have rules and regulations that we follow. The elected body gives guidance.
Mr. Musgrave.
Well, a mayor being a 2-year term, that could be good or bad. If you got a great mayor, it's a pain having to run every 2 years. If you'd like to see them not be mayor, then you only have to put up with them for 2 years. So that's one of the alternatives there. It is a little difficult when you have to run every 2 years as opposed to having a 4-year term. Many cities have 4-year term for mayor as well. We're one of the few that do 2-year, but it works. We've certainly made it happen.
All right, who has question number 3? All right, to you. Do you support the school tax levy? Why or why not?
I do not, for many of the reasons that we've heard from our council candidates. Ryan Neves is a very good friend of mine, and to see Ryan, who has all the insight into the knowledge of what goes on in the school board and the school system and budgets and everything else, for him to come out and vividly state no says a lot. And as has been mentioned previously, their budgets are top heavy. They always have been. And so just like we would in the city, you have to look inside and take care of, make sure you're doing everything as efficiently as possible before you ever go out and ask the citizens to pay more.
Absolutely. All right, Mr. Kelly, same question.
Mr. Musgrave covered mostly everything that I would have agreed to. I do not support the tax. I don't support any new tax. I don't support excess government. I think that the teachers are underpaid. In fact, I know they're underpaid. There's different ways we could fund raises for those teachers. Earlier on, Mr. Thomas said if the money would go 100% to the teachers, then I would change my mind. But I don't believe with this current government, this current school board, that that was going to be the case. And so for that reason, I do not support it.
Who's got number 4?
Me.
Yeah. All righty. You've heard this one before. Prior to Hurricane Michael, there were several affordable apartment complexes and other kinds of non-permanent housing or non-fixed single-family home complexes in your city. What can or should the city do to encourage a better balance of housing, and are you familiar with outside funding sources that would help you achieve more affordable housing?
I am. I served as co-chair of the Bay County LMS Committee for 4 years. That's local mitigating strategies. When the money comes to Bay County in the form of federal funding, the LMS Committee determines where that money is going to be spent. All of the generators, all of the equipment, the police station, hardening, everything. I wrote those grants along with Mr. Summerlin, so I'm fully versed in all of that. To answer your question, it's a much more diversified problem. In the city of Parker, as of 14 days ago, I met with the state fire marshal because of a fire we had in a meth lab. He told me that 100% of the crime in Parker is drug related, 100%. He also told me that the Bay County area was the epicenter of narcotics coming into the United States for the panhandle.
What does that have to do with housing?
Well, I'm going to get to that because all of the people...
Make it fast.
I'm sorry. It's, like I said, a multifaceted point, and I've got 30 minutes. I can tell you everything there is to know about it.
We'll give you 10 more seconds.
Until we get the drugs under control, bringing any subsidized housing in would be a bad move. It would be a very, very bad move until we resolve this consistent problem we have now.
I think that gives you a little extra time to expound, Mr. Musgrave.
I was going to yield, but...
He was on a roll. I don't know. Well,
for housing, as has been mentioned once, next Tuesday at 2 o'clock we're going to do a groundbreaking down by the Tyndall Bridge for a 270-unit, $52 million investment housing. And they're market rate housing between probably $1,300 and $1,700 a month, but the people who are going to be going into those apartments are both active duty military as well as contractors. But because of that, and I worked 1.5 years with this developer to make this happen, and there are other opportunities, Parkway Gardens, La Brisa, some other ones that people are familiar with, and we've talked to them, and there are plans available. All we have to do is do some land use changes, but there are some other developments that are on the cusp. We just need to follow through on them.
All right, number 6. Let's change it up.
Yes, ma'am.
Number 5. I was mixing it up. Oh, because I'm taking your 6. You can take my 5. It's fun. All right, citizens.
What number is it going to be?
6. All right. Citizens are always concerned about stormwater runoff during heavy rains. According to some reports, stormwater runoff is the worst pollutant in Bay and negatively impacts recreation and marine life. What changes to Parker's stormwater management program do you believe should be made to improve your stormwater control, and who should pay for it?
We have a huge flooding problem in the city of Parker. For the last 27 years, I can't tell you how many millions and billions of gallons of water we pumped out of the Cherry Lane townhomes, which were built 4 feet below grade. The watershed above there drains into a small retention pond that the city was able to build a few years ago. Unfortunately, it's not large enough for the amount of runoff, so Lance Street and all of those neighborhoods back there fills the water runoff from Tyndall Parkway onto their property and into their garages and into their homes if it's greater than 3.5 inches. Currently, the city is going to be trying to buy the Melinde property at the corner of 11th and 98 to build a larger retention pond that will help, except all of the drainage leading to there is 12-inch pipes, and it needs to be increased in size. Also, the bridge pipe, the piping under Tyndall Parkway so it will drain, needs to be a part of that grant, so that part of that expenditure, so that the pipe can drain the water as it's filtered from the upper watershed.
All right, Mr. Musgrave.
Yeah, about 4 years ago, we did a $1.1 million project for increasing the capability of our stormwater runoff, especially in the northwest quadrant of the city. The hurricane unfortunately changed the whole dynamics of that, made it less efficient than it was when it was designed because of all the tree loss, and of course all that water that the trees used to soak up now are in the waterways and the ditches. So as was mentioned, we have a 4-acre parcel that's right at the corner of 11th and Boat Race that we're in the process of acquiring, and the intention is to build a 3-acre retention pond there, which will hold almost all the water, the runoff that's coming from that northeast quadrant of the city, and hold it and let all the sediment fall down before it processes it out and puts clean water into the bay.
Speaking of money, there's a considerable sum of federal dollars coming to your city. What do you think is the best use of that money?
Is that number 5?
I'm sorry, that is number 7. All right.
Yeah, we're excited about that money that's coming. That doesn't seem to have many strings on it, which is very unusual in any kind of federal funding that comes aboard. The best use that we've talked about is identifying all the projects that we have that require match funds, and use that to take care of our match dollars, which would be leveraging all those grants and getting a lot more out of them than we would have otherwise. So we've identified about 5 or 6 different areas that we use that for the federal match funds, so it wouldn't have to come out of our budget.
Mr. Kelly?
That's exactly correct. You may or may not know, when FEMA pays the cities the 75%, the city has to come up with a match for that. Sometimes the Department of Emergency Management, DEM, will pay in 12.5, and the city's asked to pay in 12.5. Well, you can't get a grant if you can't afford the match. So when this funding comes, nobody knows for sure exactly how much it's going to be, and it's not what they said initially because it's been cut. But when we get our funding, what Mr. Musgrave said, it's vitally important that goes to the match on the projects that we already have in play. Otherwise, we won't be able to have the project and we won't receive the funding from the feds.
All right, question number 5. All right, Mr. Musgrave. Parker's landscape looks grim since the hurricane, and there's too many properties that show little signs of repair. What is going on with the city to address this, and are there future plans to go faster?
Yeah, thank you for that question. About 8 weeks ago, we had our code people identify about 49 properties that were severely damaged that needed to be either demolished or rebuilt. And we established some pseudo-judicial hearings and dealing with those on a Monday evening. We went through and where the council would vote to say this is an unfit, unsafe structure, then we gave the property owner 60 days to either demolish it or repair. And if that didn't occur, then the city had the opportunity to go take care of that itself, tear it down, and the cost of that demolition would then go on their tax bill. So that's one way that we're purifying that. We've got another 45 properties already identified for phase 2, and we'll continue forward.
All right, Mr. Kelly, same question.
more or less the same answer. Other than that, I would have implemented this much longer ago. We would have been doing this before the last 8 weeks. It should have been going on. Where some of these structures are so badly damaged that there was no way that they could have been repaired. After the storm, EPCI, the inspecting company, did red, yellow, green, blue stickers on these properties. If you had a red and you haven't fixed it in 12 months, the black mold inside that property would not be feasible to spend the money to rebuild it, bulldoze it, put a new one on the property. I've been in contact with CPAR, the people that are real estate agents, and they are absolutely chomping at the bit for this election to be over so we can get started with rebuilding these new homes. People won't come to Parker right now to build because it can take up to 12 months to get a permit. Absolutely ridiculous. I've talked with EPCI, and they said they can streamline this process once it's been through our engineer to 5 days to get a permit.
We addressed this earlier, another money question. Parker has the Community Redevelopment Agency and has had some since 2006. Are you familiar with that usage? And this is question number 8. You know its stated purpose. What do you think needs to be done with that money?
Well, first of all, there's no money.
None?
When the CRA was put in place back in 2006 or 7, that was at the peak of the housing bubble. And the way CRAs work is they establish that baseline, say that's where you're going to start. And as your property values of the city increase above that, you get all the tax dollars that are there. When we established the CRA, the threshold was here, and immediately when the bubble broke, the property values went down here. We've never even come close to doing that, to getting it back. The one thing about the $52 million investment that we're doing down to the Tyndall Bridge is that's part of the CRA, so that'll apply into those dollars. And we're hopeful that soon we'll actually exceed that threshold and actually be able to generate some funds out of that. When we did, that's one area that we can look to for supporting business, giving them some kind of breaks to encourage them to come into the city. That's what a lot of CRA dollars are used for. Once we have some, we can determine that.
Mr. Kelly?
Simple answer. As soon as that CRA engages, and once they've built all of the buildings, not just the first or the second, when they've all been built and that money is coming to the city of Parker, that the first thing that should be addressed is the drainage. We have blocks of Parker that goes underwater every time it rains hard, more than 2 or 3 inches. So that CRA money, a large portion of it should go to fixing the drainage problem that we have in the city of Parker.
Is that real? But that's an infrastructure program. Is that really? Isn't that what some of those
federal
dollars?
You can use CRA for whatever you can use it for, right?
Yeah, within the constructs of that, aren't your federal funds better used for that?
What federal funds? The infrastructure sales tax?
No, the funds that are coming down from the feds.
But we don't know how much we're going to have, and we don't know how much we can match.
Got it. All right, fair enough.
So if you're going to build a road, and the road's $1 million, and you got to put up $250,000, and you don't have $250,000, you don't get $750,000 from the feds. That's the way the match works.
Yeah.
All right. Yes. All right. Question number 9.
Mine.
All right. So back to housing, because we know in light of the recently announced new F-35 squadrons coming to Tyndall that will add over 2,000 airmen and their families to our area. How is your community preparing to accommodate or attract this new population to benefit this city's economy?
As I said, I retired 8 months ago, so I'm not integrally involved in that planning. I can tell you that when those 3 squadrons get here, it won't just be the air crews, it'll be the supply and people that work in the infrastructure to make that mission work. I'm told it's 3 squadrons, 75 aircraft. There will be hundreds and hundreds of people. Now, who wants to live on a military base and work on a brand new state-of-the-art $5 billion Air Force base of the future? And when you come over the Tyndall Bridge, you see what you see. All you got to do is drive over it to look at it. That has got to be addressed. People will not move to Parker. Those apartments can't accommodate everybody that's going to live on Tyndall Air Force Base. And although they did a great job getting those built, we need to do something about the rest of the corridor. And as we talked about earlier, the planning board has gotten different plans, and once this is started, once this ball starts rolling, working with the Air Force, we probably might be able to get some support from those guys. But the truth of the matter is that most of this, I'm sorry. we don't currently have the funding to do all that we need to do. It's going to take, as Mr. Thomas said, it's going to take quite some time to implement. We should already have this ball in play. I'm sorry.
It's good. Mr. Musgrave.
Well, as we said, the $52 million investment for a 270-unit apartment complex is just the first, and that'll be a catalyst that will drive progress and development up the Tyndall corridor. Talking to several of the current property owners who would have plans that they want to go ahead and move forward with tearing down all the old structures, building new. There's housing there, and as I said, the R2P2 plans, which is a 20 or 30-year vision, as long as we don't do something just tactically that just to satisfy the current need, we have to do it in the context of what the long-term vision is for the community. And I think I'm hopeful, and I'm feeling positive about all the buildings that will be going on and creating some housing, especially affordable.
Number 10. Here we go. Healthy businesses bring jobs and tax revenues to the city. What can the city do to support existing businesses and attract new ones?
We give them a full tax break. Other communities talk about it, we do it. Why? Because we don't have an ad valorem tax. So they automatically get to enjoy the benefit of not having to have that tax available to them. It makes it more affordable for them. We've done an outreach program and making sure that the business center, we've gotten new businesses in. Marco's Pizza was a great addition to the community, as was Pizzeria Napoli. And I know where they moved from, and they're delighted to be here in Parker. So we're reaching out to businesses and letting them know that we want them to be here, and we'll do what we can, although it's limited as far as any kind of financial incentives. But we want to do whatever we can to make them feel welcome and know that this is going to be something that will be profitable for them.
Mr. Kelly.
In the last 6 weeks, I traveled across Parker talking to everybody that I could possibly talk to, asking them what they thought we should do moving forward with new construction to have new businesses. Everybody has said not only do we need new housing, but we need more restaurants to accommodate the influx of airmen when they come to the Air Force Base. People have said to me, we want to see restaurants from the bridge all the way to where the Church's Chicken used to be. Obviously, you wouldn't put houses there. We have had a Dollar General and some other things built. The problem is this. For some reason, builders are asking to build buildings to occupy, rent, whatever, and it's taking too long to get a permit, and it makes them move on to a new location. And that's what has been occurring, and I've talked to EPCI, as I said earlier. They say they can streamline this problem. We need to get it done as fast as we can.
All right, number 11. Okay, so as we heard earlier, there doesn't seem to be a lot of citizen participation in Parker. And we know that citizen participation is important to a healthy democracy. What do you think is the best way to encourage your residents' participation?
It has been very frustrating. When I first became mayor, we started having fifth Tuesdays anytime, because the current council meets on the first and third Tuesday. And we're months that have 5 Tuesdays. We'd have a 5th Tuesday meeting in the hall, inviting all of our citizens to come, and we'd have a topic of some fires, emergency safety, anything. We had maybe 15 people show up originally, and as the time went on, it kept drifting down. So it's difficult. Part of the council discussion talked about that being kind of a magic potion. How do you get to them? How do they actually respond? I mean, it is a conundrum, if I can say so. But we have electronic communications now. We have Alert Bay that we can also use it for general announcements, use it sparingly. But we have a much better way of communicating to our citizens today than we had before.
All right. Mr. Kelly.
I feel like if we're going to spend the citizens' money, the citizens should be involved in every facet of that. There's more ways to communicate than other than electronic devices. If you had a list of people who very much wanted to participate, it wouldn't take any time at all for the 2 ladies sitting in the water department to pick up the phone and make 30 or 40 phone calls to have that meeting start. We have got to have more citizen involvement. What was said earlier was very true. People don't participate. However, they might complain if it's not the way they want it. So the way to do this is to ask first, right? You get them to come to a meeting, and we say, well, this is what we got to do, and this is why we need to do it. What do you think? So one of the things that I was asked in my journeys around Parker is, could we possibly have more meetings that involve the citizens and not the people in the government? That's basically what everybody wants. They want to know what's going on. People have asked me, if you get to be the mayor, could we get a committee or group together that would help people who can't afford to clean up their yards, because they'll help them. Go ahead.
Wait, we're on a roll here. Number 12.
It's mine, ma'am.
Okie doke. We've addressed this a little earlier, and we think it's a real concern. Ethics in government, and especially in contracting. Here in Bay County, officials are facing legal consequences over mishandling city contracts. Fortunately, that's not here in Parker, and there are ongoing investigations of corruption. What steps do you support to ensure transparency and accountability in procurement and operations?
Ethical issues are already documented at the state and federal level. All you have to do is comply with those rules and regulations, and you won't have a problem with the FBI. You don't need to worry about a sheriff's deputy if a federal agent knocks on your door, because the U.S. attorney has already decided you're going. So people should know when they run for government, if you're not ethically sound, then you're going to be going to jail. And that's how I feel about it. You are part of the public trust. The people put you in office to represent them and to spend their money. If you put your hands in the jar, then you'll suffer the consequences.
Mr. Musgrove.
Well, I tell all of my other elected friends and all the other cities in the county that I'm just glad that we're relatively a boring city. We don't appear in the headlines like some, but I think it takes strong leadership, and you have to set the mark for all your employees, that you act yourself in the most highly integrity way, ethical manner, and you set the goal for them, and then you manage to it. It was talked about the processes that we go through just to get a contract in place. It takes a lot of steps, and I'm certainly not averse to looking at even more. But I think we do a pretty good job right now, and I'd like to see that just continue.
Thank you. That was our last question. I know there's 1,000 more we could ask, but the natives are going to get restless, and I'm sure we kept you on the hot seat quite a bit. 90 seconds for a closing statement. If you want to go back and readdress anything, you certainly may. It's alphabetical. Mr. Kelly, you win.
Thank you, ma'am. So I served as your fire chief for 27 years. I have 42 years of government experience. Mr. Musgrave has been our mayor for the past 8 years. I know if you give me an opportunity to be your mayor, I can change a lot of the things that aren't currently being done. I can promise you I will. From day one, I will be my boots on the ground with the troops doing all of the work. I will be at the City Hall every day. I will touch the ball every day. I won't do it by phone. I will be in the field. And if you elect me to be the mayor, you will see significant change in the way things are conducted and the way business is done in the city of Parker. I have some plans on how to readjust currently the way we spend our money. We are going to hire a different type of policeman. I've already talked to the chief. We're going to hire a policeman who doesn't write traffic tickets. We are going to get a handle on this drug problem that we have in the city of Parker. And once we have a handle on that, we can better move forward with all of the other things that need to be done. Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Musgrave, 90 seconds.
90 seconds. Well, let's see. My platform includes 4 bullets. One is fiscal stability. The example I use for that is our debris costs in our city. Our city runs around a $5 million annual budget. Our debris cost from Hurricane Michael was $9 million. And I can proudly say that we were able to pay off that $9 million without borrowing 1 red cent. And that's the way we take care of our fiscal strain. Increasing property values, that's part of the unfit, unsafe efforts that we've got going on. We start clearing up those decrepit visibly horrible looking properties and encourage development, builders to come in and start building newer houses in those slots. More commercial development, using that big apartment complex as a catalyst. And I've been in conversation with probably 4 or 5 other developers looking at other properties that will continue that type of development. And then finally, Hurricane Michael recovery. We've still got a lot of dollars out there that are coming to our city. And I want to make sure that we get every one of them as we have the 12 million or so that we've achieved over the last couple of years. And so I plan to just continue doing what I've been doing for the last 8 years, making our city better, making our city safer. And I absolutely agree that drugs are one of the things that are an output of this. But if we take care of the housing problem, that's one of the factors that takes care of it. So I ask for your vote, for your confidence that I can continue for the next 2 years. Thank you.
All right, let's get our candidates up there. Thank you so very much. As we conclude our program this evening, the League of Women Voters would just like to ask you for a couple of minutes for our commercial and to ask you to consider something that is near and dear to us. As a women's organization, the League of Women Voters has education as one of its principal issues. For the 100 years that we've existed, we know that women's issues that involve children's issues are always centered around education. We see education as economic infrastructure for our society. And of course, our schools are important to us. We all value our children. We know that to value our children is to value our families. To value our families is to value our communities. And to value our communities is to value what we do together. And one of the things that we do together is make a statement of how and what we support by how we spend our money. And so the League of Women Voters is in fact supporting the school tax levy. Taxes seem to have a bad name all the time, and no one wants to ever pay more money for anything. And yet we do. We pay taxes as a statement of a funding value for our communities. How we spend our money determines what we value. And for every community, in Bay District, we have more than Parker. Obviously, we have a number of municipalities. And altogether, our county will pay $100 per $100,000 of individual property that one owns. So the tax impacts property owners and high value. So we will believe that the price that we pay for local taxes is a reflection of community values. There are many different funding streams for education. It is a complicated system. And I don't know anyone that thinks that teachers should not make more money. Of the $18 million that's expected to be raised from a 1 millage point increase for our schools, which has not been done since 2007. Of that $18 million, $10 million is designated to go to employees, not just teachers, but all employees. And here in Bay District, of course we have an administration, the Nelson Building. There are less than 5% of all employees that work in administration. 3,300 employees in the Bay District school system make up a major sector of our economy and are also respecting or expecting a level of respect in what we do locally to fund just a portion of what their salaries are. This is not a huge increase. We know that people that go into education don't do it for the money. No one that's a teacher gets into the profession due to the money. It is because of a salary that people are allowed to stay and to thrive. And so certainly teaching and education is changing. It's changing dramatically. It's changing fast. Where I'm from in Ohio, we often, and I was from a big city, we often had millage rate. We had millage requests and tax levy requests that we come to the citizens for, whether it was for mental health services boards or children's services boards or libraries. Local taxes reflect what the community values. And so this request for a tax mill increase for people who, I know for as an average citizen, what I would pay in addition to what I'm paying now is what I spent entertaining my friends last weekend. That's how much more I would pay to accept an increase in the millage rate on behalf of our entire community and our schools. Our schools are what we do together. And so the League of Women Voters, along with, we have a lady here this evening, Alexis Underwood, who is a member of our teachers union. And again, teachers make up a major part of our economy and are deserving of the respect to be paid a better wage. Teaching is the most undervalued profession, as you well know. So we would ask that you would consider supporting the tax levy. And we also would ask that people become informed and that there is a place online you can go, Millage the Facts. We are not here to defend any particular individuals. Elected officials should not be the reason that we do or don't support our systems. We do have convoluted processes that we use in all of our public institutions, and we would hope that we can ask our citizens when needed to give from their local property taxes. This is a specific statement of what the property owners believe about their schools. And so as someone who's been in schools for more than 2 decades, in private schools, in public schools, in charter schools, I can tell you that the education field is the foundation and the most basic thing that we can do together to assure that we have a strong future. So please support, please consider supporting, and get the facts from Millage the Facts at the school district. There's a lot of misinformation going around about this tax levy, and we want voters to be informed. So again, thank you all so very much for coming out this evening, and we hope that we'll see you all at the polls that open on Monday and will go through April 20th. On or before, please make your voice heard. Thank you so much.